Let's talk about one of the worst TV mothers I've ever seen. I'm Hollywood's best story analyst 10 years in a row and a produced and sold screenwriter. Betty Draper is the worst of the worst mothers. She has zero maternal instinct. Let's start there. Her girl dinner of wine and cigarette while the children are trying to eat, she has no real connection to any of them. She's really just a figure who makes dinner and is present, but she's never really present. She doesn't really care what they're doing. She doesn't really care how they're feeling. She never really is curious about them. And Jean and Bobby are really kind of throwaways. They're not really developed at all. Their beings are, Jean is just a baby. He doesn't exist for most of it, and then he's just a baby at the end. But Bobby, he's just kind of like a little kid too. Like you don't, there's no real story arcs with him. But in every opportunity she had to connect with Sally, she just never did. She never tried to understand Sally. Her first go to is to smack her and to send her to her room or to tell her how disgusting she is. And there's a handful of these pivotal moments, like when Sally gets her period, when she's out with Glenn at the museum, and she runs home to see her. Betty's a little kind to her, but she's not like the best. She's not like she. This could be a moment for Betty where she could really connect with her daughter. The only moment, the only really true moment where Sally and Betty connect is when Betty's driving the car and is smoking a cigarette with all the windows up. And Betty looks at Sally and says, "Oh, you can have one." And she's like, "You don't have to hide that." And so she's like 13 years old and she's like sitting there smoking a cigarette with her mother. That is the one moment where Betty really decides to connect with her. And it's terrible. She expects so much from Sally, but yet gives her nothing and is just cruel to her the entire time. And she's not even really nice to the boys. She just, is better to them because of patriarchy. But Betty is the worst TV mother I've ever seen. All she is pretty. And she gets uglier throughout the show because of her character. Ugh, Betty is the worst.